That's bad.
All right, it took a little while, but we are finally done. With the Malibu, that is. Not the S10 yet. Yet. We're close with that, though. I had a chance the other day to play with the tune in the S10 a little bit, and it's running way better. Like, it sounds so much happier. You can hear a lifter tick, I think, but aside from that, if you ignore the lifter tick, like the tick, 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 then it sounds way better. It sounds so much more like an engine. But no, the thing we're done with is the Malibu here. If you remember, my buddy Sean dropped this off a few months ago to have me completely rewire the car. We stripped out almost every ounce of stock wiring in this car and started over. But yeah, it's everything's working, so let me kind of go over it. Now, I will say, to me, it's 100% functional, but to me it's a little bit of an eyesore just because of the way some of the stuff had to get routed, and there's not really any way to hide it. Like, there's no dash or anything in the car, so it's a little bit of an eyesore, but it is completely functional and super easy to trace everything. So you can see we got the relay board over there. Everything's running to that. Like I mentioned in one of the last videos with this car, all the color of the wires go from the switch, and it follows all the way through the circuit. So if it's a yellow wire, it's related to the lights. If it's like blue, it's fan, green, fuel pump, things like that. I think that really simplifies troubleshooting wiring. Now, I would prefer to have like some sort of loom on this so that it's nice and tidy, kind of understated, but like I said, race car, tracing things, it's a lot easier to just quick visual inspection and check everything out. So here's our switch panel up here. Ignition, fuel, fans, lights. These two aren't going to anything just yet. Here's the starter. And then I did end up adding this to quickly grab some 12 volt. So we're using that for the headlight switch and the two-step button. And I prefer for the two-step to have it ground input for the ECU. So like one side of this will go to ground, and then when you hit that, it'll just complete the circuit, send a ground signal to the Holly, and then that will activate the two-step. But this someday will be used for the trans brake. And I've talked to people in the past about different methods for wiring up trans brakes, and general consensus is the fastest and best is to use a 12 volt switch instead of using a ground switch, because like if anything ever happens with the wire, if anything ever gets pinched, if you're ground switching the solenoid, then it could activate it. You know, if like a wire gets pinched or shorts out or something like that, it'll activate it just hitting the chassis or something like that. So it's better to switch the 12 volt. That's kind of the general consensus. And a lot of people don't like to go through the relay, which is what we were doing on Jack at first, was going through a relay for the trans brake. It does slow it down a little bit. I don't know. I think with like bracket racers, a lot of them for like the delay box and stuff like that, pretty sure those have a relay, but that's like a predictable thing. So you're not trying to get reaction time, so to speak. You're kind of letting off the button at a predetermined like light or something like that. Like when the bottom amber lights up, you let off the button, that sort of stuff. So moral of the story is this is 12 volt to the ECU for the two-step for now. That way whenever he does put a transmission in this with the trans brake again, which is his plan, I believe. It was his plan when we started this. I don't know if he just wants to run this transmission or what. If he does, then I wish I would have ran that to a ground, which would be easy enough to do. I just have to cut that wire and hook it to a ground instead of the power. But yeah, if he ever does put a trans brake in this, all he has to do is tie into that and then hook it to the solenoid. Easy peasy. Let me turn the power on and we can show you some stuff. Bam. Look at that, not burning down. Always a plus. You can always tell something's wrong with the wiring when it starts to leak. If you got leaky electrical, you got some big problems. So, fuel pump. Oh yeah, fans. They're my biggest fans. Oh yeah. And then lights. We got some lightage. some illuminations. We got some lumens here. We got some tail lights too. That one just doesn't have a bulb in it. So when I was wiring up the tail lights and everything, I was standing right here so that I could see the lights, and I kept checking pins and everything, and I kept seeing that side light up and then not this side, and I was like, what is going on? Something's wrong with over here. So I pulled this tail light completely out of the car, started checking everything. I was just missing a bulb, and I couldn't see that that one was lighting up. So just real stupid stuff, eh? So yeah, headlights, and then like I said, these two don't go at anything right now. And this is starter. And then, because this is street car, let's see if I can get this to work. I don't know if that's enough. No, it's not. Brake lights. Who would have thought? Oh, driving along, coming up to a stop. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Yeah, nobody's smashing into this thing. Perfect. Boom. This is a street car. Oh yeah. So I think the only thing I would really change is the battery cables need to be cut down a little bit. But aside from that, not really a big deal. Yeah, we're looking a whole lot better here. Yeah, this, it's hard to tell, but it is a lot tidier than when the car was dropped off. So like on Jack, I have the wiring out in the engine bay all covered in aluminum so that it's kind of hidden. I think the blue and yellow really stand out, but you know, troubleshooting is what I had to keep reminding myself was important. So we're looking pretty good. Pretty good. So yeah, this thing's pretty much ready to go back to Sean. Two things have to be changed in the tune. The pin for the boost controller got changed, and the two-step pin, which that's just like open up the tune file, drag it to the new pin. I've got the boost controller on B3, and the two-step, I don't remember what pin it is, but it's the white and blue wire, so easy enough to get to. So here's the part that's really bittersweet. Sean gave me full permission to take this thing out and just beat the life out of it. He's like, just try to break this car. Like, I want to find the weak links. So I was like, heck yeah, I can do that. But it's kind of 33 degrees out and rainy right now, so I think we would break it, but not in a way that he would really want. I don't think by finding the weak links he meant like horseshoe it around a tree, which is probably what would happen. So we're kind of SOL on that for now, which sucks. But oh well, we're not in a huge rush. I do want to play around with the suspension on this thing a lot. Like the tune we can get knocked out, but the suspension's the stuff that I've been really wanting to play with a lot lately, and this is the only car we have currently in the fleet with adjustable suspension. Like this is a ladder bar, so we can anti-squat, squat, try a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of different preloads. I don't think this car has an anti-roll bar. But with ladder bars, they say there's less of a need for anti-roll bars. I still think that they have their place in them, but the ladder bar itself somewhat, I'm going to say something that someone's going to just hold on to, like one key word and just run with it. But with ladder bars, the ladder bar itself, to a degree, acts as an anti-roll bar. It kind of tries to keep things, you know, and you can put some preload in it here and there, to a degree. So I've just been really wanting to do a bunch of testing and play around with different suspension setups and see what works, because we've kind of operated under like one thought on things, and lately a lot of people have been trying a different thing without kind of giving too much stuff away, because you know, grudge racing, stuff like that. So I've been wanting to do a lot of testing, but cold, wet roads, this is the only car with adjustable suspension. Anyway, the 55, man, I want to get to work on this thing so freaking bad. You have no idea. I forgot I left that there. I was playing around with different ideas for putting a rack in the front of it instead of having it a rear steer car. and I've been doing a bunch of reading about steering Ackerman, stuff like that, different angles. And I don't know, there's a lot of information out there on how Ackerman is determined on rear steer versus front steer. And a lot of the stuff I see, I read, and I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And then I'll go out and look at a stock, like a factory car, and it's completely contrasting the stuff I'm reading online. I don't know, real weird. So then I think maybe I'll just leave the stock steering in it, but man, ugh, I don't know. Also, I have no idea what these shorties came off of, but it almost looks like they would clear. Almost. I think once this thing's sitting down on the motor mount instead of on the steering link, it might hit. Oh, also, I'm really like hung up on the idea of the 55 being a Pro Charge car, or centrifugal supercharged. This one's a Vortec. It's easier to just say Pro Charge because everybody knows what you mean. I'm really hung up on the 55 being a Pro Charge car, but this car is probably going to be like 32. With me in it, it'll probably be like 3,350, 3,400 pounds. Probably before much ballast or anything like that. So to run nines, I think it might need a little bit more horsepower than that thing can put out. That thing's rated for 775 at the crank. I know some people have made like 850 at the crank, but drivetrain loss through an 80E and a Ford 9-inch and everything, that might come out to, let's say 750 at the crank, drivetrain loss. That'll probably be like 600, 630, something like that at the tire. And I think it might end up needing more power than that. So I've been debating, even though I'm a blower guy, I've been debating on putting the turbo on it. I've got that big honker right there that I've been thinking about putting on it. Actually, I've been thinking about selling that and buying a VS like 80 or something like that. But I don't know. When I'm left alone with my thoughts for too long, things start to get kind of weird. So I'll probably still put the blower on it, but I've also been thinking about selling the blower. Honestly, what I'd like to do is just put a bigger blower on it. Man, those are fucking expensive. Like a turbo kit for this thing, I could build, like including the cost of a turbo, I could build a really nice turbo kit for this thing for like $1,500. Whereas buying, like if I put a Vortec on it, because I've got the bracket and everything, if I put a V7 on this, which would make, I could probably make like 950 wheel with that. That's like $4,500. It's crazy, man. Why does it cost so much to go fast? That's why turbos are hard to beat. Like they can just be done for so cheap. So that's kind of where we're at with this right now. And I don't really want to run the shorties, but I might for now, just because it looks like they'll work. This one might need a little persuasion there. And then I've been thinking about just fogging this thing black, just to get some color on it. Stop looking at the primer so much. I don't know. It's tough because the smart thing to do is just focus on the S10 for this year and gather parts and stuff for the 55 and then build that all next winter. But man, I just want to work on the 55. Like that's the only thing I want to work on right now. And it's like the only thing that I don't really have any parts for. Aside from a shifter. I do have a shifter coming for that. That should be here next week. So that kind of commits me to the 4L80. So that's good. Yeah, I really need to paint that thing. All right, so that's probably enough rambling for today. Just wanted to show you guys that the Malibu is done and ready to rock and roll as soon as we have some good weather. So I might be moving that out of the garage here in the next couple days so that I can get something else in here, which there is supposed to be. I don't know when he's going to drop it off, but Neil, who owned the supercharged all-wheel drive LS Cyclone that was here, he has another project that he wants done that I'm super stoked on. I don't know if I should spill the beans yet or if I should keep teasing you guys, but it's in the same vein as a Cyclone. So, I mean, you can kind of guess what that is right off the bat. It has two things to spin on it. Wheels, I don't know, maybe something else. It will be forcing atmosphere into the engine, and that engine does have 8 cylinders. So whenever he finishes gathering parts here, hopefully by the end of this month, I think, he'll be dropping that thing off, maybe next month, and we can start building that. And man, that thing's gonna be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you guys need anything from Snake Eater Performance, use code SNIDERTRON for 10% off your order. If you need anything from Shipbox Supply, use code SNIDERTRON for 5% off your order. We're probably going to be using them to plumb the 55 there whenever we get around to building it. And if you need any merch, if you would like any merch, I would appreciate it. Got to sneeze. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you.